The hallway was quieter than usual, the kind of silence that feels almost staged, like the school itself was holding its breath. The afternoon sun filtered through high windows, stretching long shapes across the tiled floor. Mia walked slowly, clutching her sketchbook the way some kids clutched backpacks. Her pencil was still tucked between the pages, marking a half-finished drawing of a city skyline she could never quite get right. It was her first week at Lincoln High, and already she moved like someone rehearsing invisibility. Eyes down, footsteps soft, shoulders small. She didn't see the three boys step out from behind the trophy case until it was too late. "Hey, new girl." The voice had an oily confidence, the kind that came from getting away with things too many times. Mia froze mid-step. The lead bully, Derek, leaned against the lockers with a smirk carved into his face. His friends, Tyler and Brent, flanked him like shadows. Mia tightened her grip on her sketchbook. "I don't want any trouble," she murmured. Derek scoffed. "Trouble? Nah, we're just welcoming you." He moved fast, so fast she barely had time to inhale. His hand shot out and snatched the sketchbook, holding it high like a trophy. Mia's heart crashed in her chest. That book was her whole world. "Give it back," she said, her voice trembling despite her effort to steady it. "Please." Brent flipped through the pages, whistling low. "Wow, look at this. She's actually good." "Don't hype her up," Tyler laughed. "She'll think she belongs here." They didn't understand she wasn't worried about their insults. She was terrified they'd rip the book, tear through the drawings she'd poured hours into, the ones she'd drawn when words failed her. The ones she drew on nights she couldn't sleep. Derek tapped the locker beside her. "Why don't you step inside for a minute? You know, school tradition." Her stomach sank. "No," he shrugged. "Wasn't a question." The hallway was empty. Everyone else was outside for lunch, and the teachers rarely monitored the inner hallway during breaks. Mia looked around anyway, hoping for someone, anyone. But all she saw was the long row of lockers stretching endlessly like soldiers standing at attention. Tyler yanked the locker door open. The inside was a narrow metal coffin, cold and unforgiving. Mia's breath came faster now. She'd been trapped in small spaces before when she was little. Kids hiding during games, doors locking by accident. But this was different. These boys weren't playing. "Please," she tried again, her voice thready. Derek tilted his head, mocking pity. "Ah, you hear that, guys?" She said please. Brent grinned. "She'll fit. She's tiny." Before she could run, they closed in. Derek pushed her shoulder. Tyler nudged her from behind. Mia stumbled, her back hitting the inside of the locker. Metal bit into her spine. "No, stop." She pressed her palms against the frame, trying to hold herself out, but Tyler shoved her hands inward with casual cruelty. The door slammed. The sound was final, sharp, too loud. Click. The lock slid into place. For a moment, Mia couldn't breathe at all. It was pitch black inside. No sliver of light, no gaps. She pressed her hands against the metal, but the inside was impossibly narrow. Her elbows were pinned inward. The air tasted like dust in old textbooks. Outside, the boys were laughing. Their footsteps faded until the hallway returned to suffocating silence. Mia swallowed hard. The metal was freezing against her forehead. Her breaths came too shallow. She tried pushing the door with her shoulders, her arms, her knees, but the locker didn't budge. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Help, someone." She didn't know how long she stayed like that. Seconds. Minutes. The darkness made time blur. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. She could feel the edges of panic creeping up her throat, tightening it, threatening to tip her into full terror. She forced herself to inhale. Slow. Then exhale. She tried again. Okay, stay calm." But the air felt thinner with each attempt. Her fingers brushed the corner of her sketchbook pressed awkwardly against her ribs. Derek must have shoved it in with her at the last second. Somehow, that tiny detail grounded her. Her hands trembled, but she held onto the book like a lifeline. Voices drifted faintly from down the hall, distant, muffled. Probably students returning from lunch. She pressed her ear to the locker door, but all she heard was the thud of her own heartbeat. Then, a low vibration under her feet. Boots. Heavy ones. More than one pair. The metal locker around her trembled slightly with their movement. She stiffened, confused. What was happening? The footsteps were fast, synchronized, purposeful. And there was radio chatter. Her breath hitched. Something was wrong. Or maybe something was finally right. A sharp command echoed in the hallway, firm and booming. SWAT unit. Move. Mia's eyes widened even though she couldn't see anything. SWAT. Here. At a school. Her mind raced. Was this connected to her? No. Impossible. Nobody knew she was trapped. Nobody even knew her well enough to notice she was missing. The boots grew louder, closer, rushing down the hallway like a storm tearing through the building. Lockers rattled as the team swept past. Radios crackled. A man's voice spoke. Calm, clipped, decisive. Signal shows panic alert triggered in this corridor. Spread out. Mia froze. Panic alert. Had she triggered something without realizing? Was there something installed inside? The footsteps stopped right in front of her locker. Locker 17, the voice said. We breach. Her heart slammed so hard it almost hurt. She tried speaking, but the words tangled in her throat. The metal around her clicked. Tools being attached, metal being cut. Sparks hissed. The locker vibrated violently as machinery sliced through it. Then, the door burst open. Bright light flooded her eyes, blinding her. A gloved hand reached in, steady and strong. You're all right, a voice said. A deep, steady voice. We've got you. Air rushed into her lungs like a tidal wave. She stumbled forward, collapsing into the officer's arms as her legs trembled uncontrollably. The hallway behind him was filled with armed SWAT officers scanning the area, issuing commands, securing the perimeter. Her voice shook. I was locked in. You're safe now, he said again, more gently this time. Her eyes burned, but she blinked back tears. Not here, not in front of everyone. But inside, relief washed over her so hard it nearly knocked her over. For the first time since she'd been shoved into that locker, she felt the world widen again. Air, light, space. Safe. Finally. Chaos erupted in waves. First loud, then louder, then impossibly loud. The moment Mia was pulled from the locker, the SWAT team fanned out across the hallway with a confidence that made the school feel suddenly too small to contain them. Their heavy boots struck the floor in sharp synchronized thuds, each movement purposeful and precise. The air vibrated with urgency. Radios crackled non-stop, overlapping with shouted commands, metallic clinks of weapons shifting, and the distant echo of students screaming in confusion. Mia blinked hard, trying to adjust to the brightness. Her vision swam between the fluorescent lights, the black armor, and the sharp outlines of rifles held at low ready positions. The officer holding her steady guided her to sit against the wall where she could breathe. Her knees were still weak, refusing to trust the ground. She clung to her sketchbook as if it were a shield. You're safe. Just stay right here, the officer told her again, voice calm despite the chaos. There was something steadying about his tone, like he'd said these words to frightened people 100 times before and meant them each time. Mia nodded shakily. Her voice still refused to cooperate. Down the hallway, a SWAT operator swept a classroom door open with a shoulder slam, checking inside before signaling all clear. Another officer spoke into his radio, Section A secured. Moving toward Junction B. Possible suspects last seen near the east stairwell. Suspects. The word snapped through Mia like a wire tightening. The bullies. Her heart thudded again, not with panic this time but with a fierce, desperate need for them to be stopped. They had treated her locker like a trash bin. They had shoved her in, laughed, walked away, and now a SWAT team was storming the school because something about her lockup had triggered a silent alarm. She wondered if they knew any of this, or if they were still strolling the halls believing they owned every square inch of it. Captain, one of the officers called, waving over the man who had ripped the locker door open. He jogged over, lowering his head to listen. 3 students spotted running from corridor 3B, the officer said. Ran the moment we entered. Security footage confirms they were the last to interact with the victim. Victim. That word stung, but at least it was true this time. Where are they now? The captain asked. East Hall. They're boxed in between 2 response teams. They're not armed, but they panicked when they saw us. Take them alive, the captain said firmly. And keep it clean. They're kids. The officer nodded and sprinted off. Mia exhaled shakily. The captain looked at her then, the hard lines of authority softening. His eyes held a question, the unspoken kind that asked not for facts but for strength. "Can you stand?" he asked. I think so." Her voice sounded thin, scratched raw from breathing in the metal air of the locker. He offered his hand, and she gripped it, letting him help her up. Her legs wobbled but held. The hallway seemed wider now, but she still hovered close to the wall as if afraid someone might push her again. "We're going to take you to the nurse's office," he said. "But I'll need you to confirm something first. Was it those 3 boys? Derek, Tyler, and Brent?" Her lips pressed together. She didn't want to say their names. Saying them felt like giving them power. But she lifted her chin just an inch and nodded. "Yes." The captain's expression didn't change much, but his posture did. He stood straighter, firmer, as if the confirmation clicked something into place. Behind them, students were being ushered into classrooms. Some peeked out with wide eyes, others whispered theories: bomb threat, active shooter, drug raid. The whole school buzzed with tension and rumor, but all Mia could hear was the pounding in her ears. A sudden commotion erupted down the hall. The sound bounced off the lockers like an echo. Mia flinched before she realized it was shouting, panicked teenage shouting. "Don't touch me, we didn't do anything." "That's them," the captain muttered, already stepping forward. Mia didn't mean to follow, but her feet carried her anyway, slow and unsteady. She wanted to see. She needed to. The bullies had been cornered near the stairwell. 3 SWAT officers stood around them, weapons lowered but presence overwhelming. Derek was red-faced with fear, his swagger shattered beyond recognition. Tyler was pressed against the wall, hands up, stammering something incoherent. Brent looked like he was fighting tears. One officer stepped toward Derek. "We asked you to stay put, son. Running makes you look guilty." "We're not guilty," Derek snapped, voice cracking. She locked herself in. She likes attention. Even his friends stared at him, stunned by the lie. The captain stepped into the group, and every voice died instantly. His presence flattened the noise like a hand silencing a child's cry. He looked at the boys, not with anger, but with something colder. Disappointment. "Boys," he said quietly, "we know exactly what you did." The hallway seemed to breathe in at once. Derek's mouth twitched. "It was a joke. Just a joke. We weren't gonna leave her there forever." The captain didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Do you understand what happened here? The locker you shoved her into triggered a panic sensor. An emergency alert activated. That's why we came." Tyler blinked rapidly. We didn't know." "That's the problem," the captain said. "You didn't think. You didn't care." Mia stood about 10 steps behind the captain, half hidden behind another officer. She wasn't afraid anymore. Not of them. Not now that they were trembling, pale, staring down the consequences they'd always assumed would never come. The captain motioned to his team. "Escort them to the counselor's office. Keep them separated." Derek opened his mouth to protest, but one sharp look from the captain silenced him. As the team led the boys away, Brent glanced back, his eyes briefly landing on Mia. He looked small, shrunken, nothing like the smug figure who'd shoved her hours earlier. Mia didn't look away. She let him see her. Every bruise of fear, every trembling second she spent in that locker. Her expression wasn't angry, just tired. Done. When the boys disappeared around the corner, the captain turned back to her. "You did well," he said quietly. "You're safe. They won't come near you again." Something in Mia's chest finally loosened, like a rope being cut. Her grip on her sketchbook softened. The world around her, still chaotic, still buzzing, felt a little less terrifying. "Thank you," she whispered. The captain nodded. "Let's get you checked out." And for the first time since the locker slammed shut, Mia allowed herself to believe him. Maybe she really was safe now.